So now that we've laid in our backgrounds, and you can do that through multiple layers of washes to create a darker, more atmospheric look, or you can keep them kind of light and free. We're now going to move on to the object itself. And the first step is that we're going to create a shadow layer, which is kind of like an overall map for our darkest shadows. And we're going to do this using just one color. We're not going to worry about what the actual color of the object is, because this will unify the object altogether. And again, watercolor is pretty transparent, so the shadow will be in there, and then we can overlay other colors to kind of change the different parts. Now, you can just use a straight color out of your tray, but today I'm going to do a little example on mixing the colors, because mixing is important in case you want to get something in between these colors. Now, there's two places you can mix the colors. You can do it in the top of the tray. All right. That's good for when you want a small amount of color. All right. And it's also important that when you do that, you clean the top of the tray before you close it. Otherwise, you're going to get all this nasty and messy. Remember also that when you're mixing the colors, you want to clean your brush out before you switch to the second color. Otherwise, the colors themselves are going to get muddy. Now, I'm going to go for a little bit more color than that, since I'm doing a shadow map and not just some tiny part. So I actually have a jar that I've started to put some blue in with just a little bit of water, not a ton, because if we have too much water, it's going to be very diluted. And the idea is I want to keep adding color to this water because that's going to be the mixture. So again, you don't need a lot of water, because if you get too much, you're not going to get any color at all. But I'm going to go for sort of an aqua color. So now that I've added blue to that water, I'm cleaning out my brush. I'm going to start with some clean water. And I'm going to just add a lot of water. This is no longer going to be clean because it's going to be green. I'm just going to start by adding a lot of water to my green section. Excellent. So that now I can add some green, taking the time to squeeze out the color, hitting that paper towel before I go back for more green. Now it's a little awkward. I don't normally do this in the air. I put the jar down, and I'll do this with the color over there. So you'll just keep adding in that green, making sure you get plenty of what your tone is going to be. And it's just nice to have some options besides the basic colors they've given you in your tray. All right. I'm going to set that aside now because I have a color that's not quite blue, not quite green, just that aqua color. And I'm going to come back to my original drawing that I've done. You'll see that I've darkened the purple from the first go around, and I've added in some brown for that table. I've got my object set up where I want it to be, and I'm just going to observe where the light hits it and causes the shadows, the darkest parts. Now, it's important to remember that in watercolor we don't have white. We're going to use the white of the page for our highlights. So if something is really bright on the object, don't paint there. Just leave the paper blank. And really what I'm going to do now is, again, carefully and slowly, lightly, just start adding in the areas that have the darkest shadows. And I'm not worried about details yet. I'm getting just more of an overall sense of the object. Where there's the darkest areas. Because again, even after this, I'm going to come back with different colors for the different sections. So, you know, my handle is a different color from the body, which is a different color from the base and such. I really am just kind of plotting out those shadows being very light again because watercolor is a transparent medium. You get your tones built up. Slowly over time. Kind of wishing I had a smaller brush, but that's okay. We're going to make do because, again, we're just trying to get the essence of the object at this point. We're not too worried about the details. The only thing we're worried about is that we don't paint where the highlights are. Because once we put paint on there, we can't go back to white. We don't have a white watercolor paint. And we're just getting a sense of where the darkest parts of the object are. And laying them in real subtle. And the nice thing about this is, with watercolor, if you don't like, you think, ooh, we had a spill. That's what that paper towel is for. As long as you get it before it dries. Then, if you're looking at that and you're saying, I need some of this to be even darker, because you have laid in the shadows and you've got a sense of where they are, but you are ready to push them up a notch. What's nice is if it's still wet, and I have mine at a tilt, I can drop some tone at the top of that area that I've painted, and it's going to spread down now, and you may not want to have it at such an extreme, but it's using gravity. It's like that gradiated wash that we practiced to let things pull the tone down for you. And then maybe you're saying, I want it even darker. So at this point, I've got my base shadow in there. I'm going to come back and I'm just going to drop some blue in there. And that's really kind of dark. What's fun about that is I can go back to clean water and I can drop that in. I can move the paper around. Anytime I add more water to it, it's going to diffuse the tone. It's going to make it lighter. Although the back of my drill is very dark. And it's alright if you get a little variation. Again, we're just trying to get the essence of it. We're having fun. We're letting the tones spread. Maybe even give it a slight little tie-dye effect. Once you think you have a pretty good shadow mapped out, you want to set that aside to dry. And then I'm bringing in my other one that I've already laid in my shadow map there. And at this point, now that I have that down, I can start building areas of tone. Okay, again, I want to stick pretty light. In fact, I'm going to go back to that aqua color that we mixed earlier for the other image. And I'm going to use that for the main body. It's pretty light. That's fine. I got some areas that are kind of an aqua blue for the drill, and then I got some areas that are black. I got some bright orange areas that are going to be really fun to lay in later. And again, I'm avoiding painting anything that I want to be really bright white or for that highlight. You can see I left a little area there. That's going to be that orange coming in. And you can continue painting each layer, building it up slowly. Again, adding some tone, moving around. You can have fun playing with making the water move across the page. It's a flow medium. It's that controlled chaos. You're never going to quite be able to make everything perfect. It's about letting go and building up slowly. All right, so at this point, I would let this section dry. And then I would come back and maybe I want to paint my gray section. I've got an orange section planned. I've got black section. The important part is between each layer, let it dry before you switch to another color. Otherwise, they will all melt together. All right, go ahead and start building up your images. Good luck.